Welcome to the Newsmaker. The next generation 5G, increasing market competition, lots to talk about in the telecoms industry here in Switzerland. And for that, I'm joined by Olaf Swantee. He's the CEO of Sunrise Communications. Thank you so much for joining us, Olaf. So,
thank you, Martina.
First question, how much time are you spending on your mobile phone every day?
I think it's actually a lot of hours. I think it's probably way too much. And most of the time I spend on email, WhatsApp, and some newspapers.
So Sunrise Communications covers basically the full range of telecommunications,
yes.
right? Mobile, landline, TV, internet. Is this not putting, your eggs into too many baskets?
No, it's actually one of the strengths of the company as a challenger to focus on actually the complete telecommunications portfolio for consumer customers and for businesses. Because in a consumer world, most customers nowadays are looking for a provider for internet access across fixed or mobile and TV. And in the business world, it's pretty much the same thing, especially smaller companies that don't have a big IT organization are searching for complete telecommunication solutions.
You actually call yourself a universal provider. But where do you actually put your focus when it comes to growth potential?
Okay, so in the consumer space, our biggest growth is in internet and TV. Because in this area, our market share is lower than in our mobile business, where we have about 25% market share. And the other area, which is a very important growth area for us, is the business area. Because in the business area, as we have the total portfolio, we have some very strong customers working with us, like CNN, but not only CNN, there's also many others, Postal Services, Rivella, and many others. We have a really good foundation to grow from, and our market share is still modest in that space. We have about 10% share, so we can grow.
But come on, Olaf, TV, sadly, I have to say that as well, and broadcast is a dying industry. Everything is moving towards digital. Why still putting so much focus on TV?
Well, because, you're saying that I don't think it's a dying industry. I think TV is shifting from, looking in the traditional free-to-air channels to a more OTT experience, so an over-the-top experience. And our solution obviously encompasses both free-to-air TV as well as individual TV through the likes of Netflix, Sky, or other applications that we provide. So that business is actually growing really fast. And in addition, we find that for us, what is really profitable and the driver of growth is actually the internet connection, because we are a connectivity company. But TV is essential in selling an internet product today. It's very hard to sell just one of the two.
I'm glad you still say that. Let's talk about your recent earnings numbers as well. In the second quarter of this year, your net profit dropped by 10% to 24 million Swiss francs. So the outlook might not be looking that rosy.
No, actually, our results were very, very good, and the shareholders, the market was extremely positive. Because
but a 10% drop is not sounding that good.
Yeah, but it's really about the EBITDA, the revenue, and the gross profit that we're making here, because the net profit is highly impacted by the cash flow, the investments that we have made. What the shareholders and the market are really excited about is that they're seeing a company that is able to grow its top line and its gross profit. Yes, with some investments, but we were even so good that we could exceed the analysts' expectations, and we could raise our guidance in terms of end-of-year EBITDA, or said differently, profitability.
So in terms of profitability, right, to stay on a profit-making track, what kind of strategies are you launching and what kind of innovations do you have coming up?
Okay, so earlier we discussed the growth areas in the business. So we have, in internet and TV, we have a double-digit revenue growth, which is driving a lot of profit for us. The second area is the business area, which didn't grow last year. And again, the shareholders were very impressed because now for the first time we start seeing the first results of the investments we have made in salespeople, in portfolio, and we started to grow on the gross profit side also in that area. So today, actually, at a summary level, what you can say is we grew in Q2 2.8% our gross profit level and our top line. And that is underpinned by different growth drivers. It's not one business, it is different areas, which solidifies our profitability moving forward. And lastly, we are quite confident that we can continue on this journey, again, because our strategy as a quality challenger in the Swiss market is working very well.
At the end of the day, your business is all about people and customers, obviously, as well. Now, in the second quarter, your new mobile consumers, they grew by 7.7%, internet subscribers by 11%. But it's not an easy market environment. How are you trying to lure and attract more consumers?
Yeah, so we had I think it was the fourth quarter in a row, by far the best commercial results in this market. So we know already with these numbers, 30,000 net adds in mobile, 11,000 internet, that we are growing our share. And so first of all, it's about continuing our strategy. And the reason that those customers are coming to us is because we're offering a real quality capability. We're not just competing on price as a challenger, we're competing on price performance.
This is what your competitors, Swisscom and Salt, will be saying as well.
I don't think so. They may say it, but they don't do it. I mean, I think the big difference is that what is really refreshing in this market, to have finally a company called Sunrise that is actually, as a challenger, taking the incumbent head-on quality differentiation and not just price. And that in a market which that is very much centered on quality. And in industry, I mean, you asked me your first question, how much time do you spend on a smartphone? I mean, everyone spends loads of time on smartphones. So our product is very essential in people's lives. So I fundamentally believe, as a CEO of a telco, that the quality is so essential. And that's our foundation for growth.
Another very important point is it's a mobile industry in two senses, because it's mobile technology, but also it's mobile because the consumers, they change companies, on a yearly basis almost.
Exactly.
So how do you retain your customers?
Yeah, I mean, we go a step further as a telco. It's quite unique, actually, also in the world. What we have done is we provide a product called Freedom. And we basically say, because most telcos, they tie you into a contract. We actually have done the other way. We said, you can leave anytime you want. So our task is to deliver a better customer services and a better network experience. And by doing that, I mean, if we don't do that, then customers will leave. If customers have a bad experience, they can leave, and they can leave easily. So we try to really do a good job on those two axes.
You offer a lot of mobile devices as well in your shops. For example, Huawei, Samsung Galaxy, and of course, Apple products too. What about new Chinese brands like Oppo or Xiaomi that are coming?
Yeah, I think what is interesting, and we see the handset market evolving and changing. There is a clear, especially in this market, really strong position from Apple, because they, of course, share a passion for quality and innovation like Sunrise. Samsung is strong. And Huawei is upcoming. We are talking to Xiaomi and Oppo and others. We believe that the Swiss market is certainly ready to take on more than 3 brands in the market. So, but it's going to be difficult, I think, for those companies because, again, the Swiss consumer and business is first and foremost are looking for quality, reputation, and brand. And before they achieve that, like Huawei has done, that will take some time.
So when we come back to market competition here in Switzerland, we've mentioned Swisscom and Salt, your biggest competitors. How fierce is this market environment at the moment, and how are you trying to win?
So the market is quite intense, but I've worked many years also in the UK or in other markets. I would say it's similar to other environments, with the kind of strange situation that one company has a very dominant position. So in that sense, that changes the competitive dynamics quite a bit. And that's a new experience for me, but the intensity is quite the same. What we do to win, your question about how do we win, I mean, there is on the mobile side a lot of promotional activity, and especially we are extending our routes to market from traditional channels to online, and in business to business. So in the business market, it's all about, in our view, presence, presence, presence. So we just try to build out our account management force so that we have simply more access to customers. It's not so much a problem that they don't want to work with us. It's the challenge is to be pervasive enough so that they can work with us.
And what about teaming up with another player, Olaf, like Salt or maybe a smaller one? Has there been any discussion?
Well, you know, the good news is, and we started our conversation there, we have all the pillars to be successful in today's telecom markets. I think it's very hard for a company that is a one-trick pony, that is only mobile, only internet, only cable. It's quite hard because customers are looking for an integrated solution. So we don't need another player. We don't need to buy anyone. We don't need to be bought. We don't need to...
So does this mean that you're ruling out any acquisition and takeover, target in the next couple of months or next year?
I think consolidation on the mobile side is quite unlikely because there's a precedent. Actually, I was involved in that, and that was refused by the competition authorities, a legal precedent. It doesn't mean that it's not possible, but it could be very, very difficult. I think consolidation from cable to mobile or fixed to mobile is, from a regulatory perspective, in our view, easier to execute. Again, we don't need it. We have everything we need as a standalone.
So at this point in time, there's no acquisition plan in the pipeline?
No.
What about working more closely with UPC, for example?
Well, that refers to your earlier question. I think that, there have been a lot of rumors, and I think those rumors in many ways have also started because there are a lot of question marks about how this cable business evolves, how it will be impacted by OTT TV, how it will be impacted by 5G. That's where it started. We don't need any consolidation today. If consolidation would happen in this area, we're in a strong position because our strategy works, we are growing our market share, and we can clearly provide significant synergies.
For Sunrise TV, what are your plans with Netflix, for example, to offer those services as well?
So we are offering Netflix today. We believe that in the TV world, we need to have aggregation of content. And the good news is, which we also see now with CNN, which I find very interesting, available in Switzerland, that a lot of content is globalizing. And a lot of players are globalizing in the content world. And we need to aggregate those applications in our portfolio. So we will continue to search for new content from international application providers, such as Netflix, but maybe also others. And we will continue, of course, to provide also the local content.
Do you also imagine maybe in a couple of years or months, because we live in such a short-lived world, to offer your own content, that Sunrise becomes an own content provider as well?
I think that's unlikely. I don't see, and that's my opinion, I believe that it's very difficult for a telecom company to do a better job than you, for example, or see that to build content. And it's very expensive to do that. So we actually think that because of the fragmentation of content, on the one hand, in particular sports content about multiple providers, and the fact that there are a lot of content components available at a global level, that aggregation is actually a very good, simple way and a little bit lower risk than providing your own content and try to produce it.
Let's move a little bit towards another topic, which is costs, and especially roaming costs. Mm-hmm. So whenever I travel on business, I'm shocked when I wake up the next day and forgot to turn off my roaming, obviously. So are you planning to bring down the roaming costs anytime soon?
Yeah, I mean, our roaming pricing have come down very, very much, and especially, I would say, in the European context, but even, in Europe, the United States, Australia, many, many countries, you can really roam without any problem or without any risk. I think the days, at least with us, of bill shock are over. We have now offered solutions. If you buy a cup of coffee, half of the price of a cup of coffee, you can roam already. And throughout the summer, we had a lot of promotions about unlimited roaming for customers, so that people can really switch on their phone and not wake up with a bill shock.
Exactly, the next day. So the mobile subscription packages, they start at 25 Swiss francs a month. Do you plan to cut prices there as well on a monthly basis?
I mean, what we're seeing is, I mean, if you would go online today or you would go to our stores, our proposition remains with Sunrise that we say it's quality first. We want to have the best network in Switzerland, in the world, here. And we have achieved that over the last 2 to 3 years. We have achieved the best network credentials, according not to me, but benchmarks that are set.
Okay, I need to say that I'm also a Sunrise customer using 3G, but 3G is like the past century. I mean, everybody is using 4G. You're also now involved in the deployment of 5G. I was just in Africa using 4G everywhere. Yeah. So why still 3G? Are you not a little bit late in the game?
That's surprising. We need to maybe talk to your IT team because actually, you know, our 4G, we have the widest geography coverage on 4G in Europe here with us. So we have 95% of the geography covered. Most telcos, you may have heard when you're in the industry, talk about population coverage. We talk about covering the Swiss geography 95% of the time. So actually, we have the highest growth and absolutely pretty much all our customers with the right handset are using 4G all the time, all the time, all the time. So that's actually surprising. We maybe need to take that offline. We'll figure that out.
Please do, absolutely. I cannot wait for 5G now. Actually, because this June, Sunrise announced the first 5G antenna here in Switzerland. So bring me up to speed. What is the plan with the deployment now? When can we finally use 5G?
Yeah, well, 5G deployment, first of all, the real important question is what we will use it for. And I think there's many use cases, but the most important use case we see is to provide internet and TV in areas where there is not good fiber. So especially in rural and suburban areas, we're looking from 2020 onwards to provide TV and internet services to the home for customers that don't have maybe the fastest cable in their house, simply fiber speed over the air using 5G. So that application is the first. The second application, which is important over time, is that smartphones use a lot of data. We are doubling our data every 16 months today. Can you imagine?
That's very costly.
Yeah, it's costly. And 5G is a more efficient technology to deal with that data growth. And we will phase it in to accommodate the growth in the next few years to be able to have more.
And when do you see this moment arrive when we can use 5G? Next couple of years, this means 2021, 2022?
No, so 2020, we will certainly be able to provide services for internet and TV, also for some smartphone use, but our targeted use cases for that. And then from that point onwards, we also expect smartphones to be available from the likes that you mentioned before, that could actually utilize the signal on an handset.
Now, if we put all of this into a global perspective, I've lived in China for many years, and you have China Telecom, China Unicom. They're so active in the rollout of 5G technology already. Sure. Switzerland seems to be falling far behind.
I think where Switzerland is, I mean, the same things are that we use the same airwaves as China, which is very good because it means that a lot of devices will be available quickly. Where we are also in line with China is actually making the spectrum available, although through an auction system. In China, I think it's different. Where we are behind in this country is the regulation around the antennas. To be able to deploy the antennas that are in the background here, you need a lot of energy. And the antenna, the regulation around antennas is very restrictive and makes it very hard to very quickly roll out everywhere in Switzerland 5G. That's different in China. And we have made that very clear to the politicians that that's something we have to work on, because otherwise China will be ahead in total geography coverage compared to Switzerland.
So you're talking to the government here and regulators as well. What kind of political willingness do you see? And do you think that we will be able to find more antennas in Switzerland soon?
The problem for the politicians is it's not a very popular debate to talk about antennas in general, because, as you know, there is some anxiety around the radiation on antennas. But the option is worse, because it's basically either we use a little bit more energy on the same antenna, or we need to double the number of antennas in Switzerland. And of course, doubling means more cost, slower rollout, and I think most people don't accept a second antenna in their village. So I think there is no way around it than to actually try to revise the regulation and make the regulation not totally different, because we are already very careful compared to the World Health Organization. We are 10 times stricter than the World Health Organization in Switzerland.
So you don't see any health hazards from these antennas?
I think, the research is showing over the last 22 years that all the research that is done cannot point to a risk, okay? And we will continue the research. And in Switzerland, the regulation is 10 times stricter than the international standards allow it to be. So our plea, and not just us, but the whole industry, is say, make it a little bit easier. Make it not 10 times, but 3 times stricter. We still are very careful. But then at least we can roll out 5G as fast as in China.
In 2020, Sunrise plans to start a campaign called 5G for the people.
Yeah.
So how expensive or cheap do you think will 5G become for the average customer?
It's a bit difficult to say. Currently we are working especially on the technical challenge, and we're trying to figure out how we do this quickly and without too much investments, of course, and how we can make it very, very efficient. So it's a little bit hard to say what the price will be. But what I can certainly say is that the experience, I think, will be quite amazing, because you can imagine, to have nearly 7 times the speed, how new applications like artificial intelligence, virtual reality will become real.
This will change our lives forever, probably.
I absolutely think so. And I think, in particular, which is not in Zurich, where we are today, but if you go to the rural areas, there's a lot of areas where you don't have a very good fiber signal. So to be able to provide a super capability and reduce the digital divide in Switzerland, I think is very, very powerful. And that is what 5G promises.
And then, of course, the next generation would be 6G. What would happen there? What's the next step after the generation 5G?
I don't know, but I have written in my LinkedIn, I've did a LinkedIn article once about 6G. I think it could maybe be a conversation via the phone to Mars. Maybe there are people on Mars at that time, without an interruption, because the problem will be when you make a phone call to Mars, you have a lot of delay because the time it takes from the light to get to Mars. So I don't know. Listen, I don't know. But I'm sure about one thing, is that this industry is very dynamic, and we will keep moving ahead on the curve and drive new standards in the market, new technologies. And 6G will be after 5G, and I'm sure it will be exciting.
What about digital disruptions? Which are the biggest challenges for you there?
Digital disruption, I think the biggest challenge that we're working in Sunrise, and that we just want to get that absolutely right, is privacy of data and cybersecurity. Everyone is more concerned nowadays than they used to. Our products, our phones have so much essential private data on them, and increasingly so, that we need to be very conscious as an industry and as a company of how do we deal with that. And when I speak to young people who are giving us feedback on what the telecommunications industry should worry about, what is very interesting is that those young people are actually saying, you need to be careful about my data, and be aware and deal with that in a very ethical and moral way.
Has Sunrise experienced any cyber attacks or theft of data? And what kind of measures are you taking there?
We have had attacks, but we have very good protection mechanisms. So we haven't, thank God, had any major real issues. But yeah, you have your regular attacks, but we have protection mechanisms in place.
Are they enough?
Are they enough? You always have to do more. You always have to find what's around the corner, but I feel very confident that we are in a good position compared to the rest of the industry.
Before we go, Olaf, you have been in the market, or there are rumors out there that you are in the race for the top job of BT in the UK as the new CEO. What do you say to that?
Well, there's always rumors. I was flattered that I was mentioned in the newspapers in the UK. But I have a plan here in Switzerland. I'm very focused on that, and I don't have any other plans.
no plans in the pipeline for BT in the UK at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us, Olaf.
Thank you.
Great having you here, and hope the sun will keep rising for you.
Thank you. Thank you.